Good afternoon. You're listening to the Fourth Estate on Radio Brunel, Brunel University student-run station. And today I am joined by Nkechi. She is an American student studying in the UK. So Nkechi, tell us a little bit about more yourself.
Hello. Once again, I'm Nkechi Ndukwe, and I have been studying journalism for quite a long time now. I started off my senior year, which is my last year of secondary school, focusing on journalism. From there, I went to Albany State University, and I decided to take up a major in mass communications with a minor in marketing. And now I'm here at Brunel University doing my MA in international journalism, and I am terribly cold 24/7. So I just, I've been adapting as much as possible while in pursuit of following my dreams.
Yeah, I bet. And fantastic, because normally when we have people on the show, they tend to lie a little bit about who they are. They say their name accurately, but they say, oh, I am a biologist studying at the Atlantic or trying to find Atlantis, because it's like to make fun of, their background or whatever. So it's nice to hear some, accuracy and some truth.
Oh, yeah, that's me all the time, especially, focusing in something where we expose people or we expose the truth.
Yeah.
It's best that us being the mediators, we try to stick to the truth as much as possible.
That is true, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't heard this before, today's show, or our shows normally, they will center around the top news and issues of the week. And, being an American student in the UK, Nkechi brings a new perspective on issues that we normally won't hear of across the pond, because we always hear about, David Cameron, Boris Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure I don't know how you feel about Boris Johnson and David Cameron. Do you think they can sort of be compared to the same level as Barack Obama?
They're pretty boys. They're just so...
pretty boy? You don't think Obama's pretty boy?
Okay. There is almost like a boyishness about the two of them. Like, of course they play soccer, which is, UK or worldwide
Football.
known as football. And, they have that type of aesthetic of they're just backyard British boys, while Obama is more so of a city slicker. He's very down to earth. Not to say that, they aren't, but I just feel like they're like the Backstreet Boys and they're politicians. How can you mix the two? But it's almost like when I saw what is his name? When I saw Boris in Uxbridge,
You saw him because he was here about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, so when I met him, it was sheer pandemonium. Like, people were stepping over each other to, speak with him. And I just had to chuckle because I'm like, this is my first time even really going in depth about who he is. I've, of course, heard of Boris in my life before, but I never decided to research who he was until after I met him. And I was like, oh, that's who I met. Interesting guy,
Yeah, that's the man. That's the man with the floppy hair. Yeah, he's quite an interesting character. I mean, when you met him, what did he say to you? Did he say anything interesting to you?
I asked him, Boris, have you ever taken a selfie before? And he chuckled. And from there, I said, can we take a selfie? And he said, certainly. Why not? Of course. And that's when his, I guess, PR person smushed us together and we took that selfie. And I told him I'm studying international journalism, and he gave me the thumbs up. It was very, dry, straightforward.
That's not bad. And not a bad accent as well, Nkechi. Quite good British accent.
Oh, really?
Not bad. All right, so we'll jump right into it. This is one issue that I think is spurring a bit of a comments across the pond in the US about Cleveland. Apparently a rookie officer in Cleveland shot a 12-year-old boy outside a city recreation center late Saturday afternoon after the boy pulled out a BB gun from his waistband. So, Nkechi, you want to talk about this news a bit. So why did you want to talk about this particular issue and particularly this news reporting?
Because what is an unknown topic here in the UK is racial intolerance. So it's not like in the US where that's a known diversity, or that territory is known, while here is very more so they discuss that in their home. Do you understand? So if, let's say for example, I'm a white male that was born and raised in the UK or Scotland, wherever, and I have a bad encounter with someone who is African, as in they were born in Africa and they moved to the UK. Off the back, that perspective of that African man might be swayed. While in the US, there's an intolerance against all the ethnicities there, and there's a lack of understanding about the African American community. Because I feel like, me being a Nigerian woman, I have more of a leisure when it comes to applying for jobs. They'll probably look at my resume before they look at that one of an African American woman or male. And that's something that's very heartbreaking to me, because it shouldn't be based off of face value. It's about the quality of the person and what they can bring to any type of situation. Now, when it comes to this shooting, it's just like another terrible situation to where someone is getting shot and they're a male, and secondly, they're an African American male.
I mean, that's what happened before, like with, Trayvon Martin, and what's the other one again? I think it was a few months back.
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown as well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that more an issue of African American communities, or the issue of stricter gun laws, and
My thing is, you can't have a stricter gun law when guns are being sold just any way you can purchase them. You can purchase a gun online if you want. You can go to the actual gun shop and get a gun, as long as you register for it and take the accurate legal precautions to have that gun. So changing gun regulations to me will just seem a little bit too late. Mm-hmm. Instead, why not put these young men into activities that will be beneficial for them, so they're not roaming around the streets looking suspicious? I say it kind of goes hand in hand. They're idle young men. Mm-hmm. In their neighborhoods. They don't have anything to do. Most of their parents probably aren't at home. Like, just think of the buildup as to why they will not be in their house or be at school doing something productive, for them to get into some type of criminal activity. And that's when the police, be it white, black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever they are, they will now see that gentleman as a threat to society. And I might, upset some people as I'm saying this, but the dynamics of these shootings should be blamed on both sides.
Okay, well, I mean, interesting, because you bring about the issue of African American men who have to be given to different communities, different activities, just to make them not so idle and something to do. But I see it more as an issue of police officers being able to just they're not saying that they're running wild, but the issue is that these things happen are not just one-off cases. You have issues of police officers using, too much force on a suspect, or, shooting an individual without actually cause for alarm. And these kind of things do happen. I feel it's more of an issue of police individuals not being strictly controlled, and they're not knowing what the actual, the results or the consequences are going to be for these kind of actions. I don't think they're often controlled enough sometimes.
And I agree with you. I actually watched a YouTube video of a gentleman in Harlem being cuffed to his car, as in the police, cuffed him. His arms were behind his back, and the police officer kept slamming the gentleman into his car, and his wife was outside. His children were outside. It's like, why would you put that family through such a traumatic visual when all you could have done was handcuff this man and put him in the police car? If he was acting resilient, then you up the ante as how to calm him down. But to just fully go into the force of, one, I'm throwing him on top of his car. This isn't a police drama. This is real life. God forbid it be someone of a different ethnicity and they decide to sue, not necessarily the police department, but they try to sue the person as a separate entity. That's liable to happen.
Exactly.
But I do agree with you. It's like these police officers need to realize this is not NYPD Blue or CSI. You guys are dealing with real lives. You're dealing with human beings that have a family, and nobody wants to see their family member have to go through a murder or a shooting, if you want to, stoop it down to that level, or to any type of police brutality.
Exactly. And recently, I mean, in almost a linked issue, is that the Baltimore Sun, about 2 months ago, they did uncovered investigation about they found that residents in Baltimore, they suffer broken bones and battered faces during arrests. And, nearly all the victims that sparked those lawsuits were cleared of criminal charges. And these people weren't actually, prosecuted properly. And it's an issue, I think, not only in the US, but probably maybe in the UK as well, of individuals, police officers, people in power, abusing their position and using unnecessary force.
Because then we, as a society, will not trust the people who are placed to protect us.
Exactly. And that's obviously going to be a huge issue, because the police are meant to help us protect society, and if they are going to hurt the society, what's the issue about that?
It's definitely a power drive. Some might say a Napoleon complex. They might feel like they're actually the little guy when civilians are the ones that have the right to pull a firearm on them if they want. And I don't see it as that. If you are a police officer who knows the ethics of your job, who knows the rules and regulations of what you're supposed to do, then you know that you shouldn't have to pin somebody down or to pull a gun out on a person if you feel threatened. Now, if that person shoots, then definitely you have the right to shoot back. It's defense at that point, excuse me. But if someone does not have any type of altercation with you, other than they're being resilient to getting in your police car, or they might have a BB gun like the 12-year-old boy, then you have a situation where you need to evaluate it. Don't just lead with actions. Think about what you should do first, because thoughts come to you like that. So no one can say, oh, well, what if you don't have time to think? Trust me, you have time to think about everything you do in life before you make an action for it.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. So, I mean, another headline is that Burger King has axed 89 of its 688 franchises in Germany at once over ongoing scandals about poor hygiene and mistreatment on staff. I mean, that's obviously another issue, I mean, not linked to police, but it's a different issue of employment and workers' safety, workers' issues with workers' treatment. And the issue of minimum wage, how do you treat an individual? I mean, what do you make of this?
To be honest, if it comes to anything involving food safety, then I say take extra precaution. It's just simple as that. There's nothing more that you can go in depth about it. But if they're overdoing it in the sense of they're not following the guidelines of, okay, our employees are coming in and they wash their hands after they use the bathroom, which I hope they do. They wear gloves.
So apparently, expired food products were labeled as fresh ones. Burgers were often kept warm for hours rather than being freshly grilled, as the chain proudly advertises. And they also violated including personnel cleaning toilets and then preparing food in the exact same clothes as those preparing when they cleaned the toilets. These are issues that I'm
sorry. Was this just a local branch, or you said it was how many branches?
So, the move affects 89 of the fast food chain's almost 700 German outlets. So that's about 89 in just Germany alone, I think. That's quite a big number.
For restaurants especially, that's a huge number. Now, that's upsetting to me, because you have children with you. I think about children often. You have children with weak immune systems. They're the ones that get sick first, and then they get their mother or whoever sick, and it's just a chain reaction. So if you have people who are cleaning bathrooms, then cooking, I blame the manager for that. I don't blame Burger King as the core reason, because I have eaten at Burger King, and I often check to see if the person making the food has on gloves, and I haven't been disappointed yet. Yeah. So I wonder if the managers of these establishments just have a custodial team to clean up after people after they finish eating, after they use the bathroom. Have someone that specializes in that job. Don't have the person flipping burgers and pouring out the French fries be the same person that washes the toilet bowls. That's just disgusting.
Yeah, I don't know whether I would eat from there anyway from Burger King. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
to be honest, I don't like anything that's not cooked from my own stovetop, but you have to honestly look at the management.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that not being something that you notice? Like, hey, let me just use you for example. Hey, Jimmy, why are you cleaning the toilet bowls and now going to work on cutting lettuce? That will disturb me as the manager or even the store owner.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, my mother is someone that pays attention to the cleanliness of a restaurant. She's the type that will soak her utensils in hot water. There was a time we went to Checkers and she noticed that the young lady...
What is Checkers,
Checkers,
by the way,
is like a drive-through
in the U.S.
In the U.S.,
okay.
It's more so of a diner type environment.
Oh, I miss those. I like diners.
Yes, it's a drive-through diner environment.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one young lady scratching her hair. I'll never forget this. We actually were leaving church. A young lady was scratching her hair at the Checkers, and she now touched our food. And my mom had a fit. She got the number from the grading system that they have on their windowsill, and she called Checkers. And ever since then, though, that restaurant, everyone has on gloves, no matter what.
No matter what. That's good. That's a good thing to do.
But how many people will actually say, you know what, let me call
let me call this number, let me call them
Right.
and report them, I don't think that happens enough, actually.
It needs to.
Actually, I want to talk about something else that we did last on Friday's show about these two organizations, One Africa, I think, as well as Africa Responds. They produced two simultaneous videos talking about how the world was slow to react to Ebola, while local communities in Sierra Leone, they responded really well. And the issue of and then One Africa produced like a tracker of countries who pledged to give money, but the full amount of money they pledged weren't actually being given to these African countries.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, the U.S. obviously was on top.
You said One Africa and the other one?
I think Africa Responds as well. I mean, I'm not sure whether that's... Yeah, so it's one, not One Africa, but just one.org. Mm-hmm. So, what they found was that the UK, based on gross national income, they were giving the most out based on income. But that's obviously one issue. I mean, but the main issue that I want to talk to you about is... Do you agree with the statements about how the world was kind of slow? Well, the major powers of the world were slow to react to Ebola.
Because Ebola has been around since the 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
Thousands of people have died since then, but this has been a hush-hush issue. Now, it's funny because I am a fan of Facebook, Twitter. I do go online to check what the public is saying, in a sense. And I start to laugh when I notice those conspiracy postings, like the one, my favorite is the one where Bernie Mac is leaving his nephew's room and he's like, that boy has Ebola or something of that nature. And people are like, the government has known about Ebola for years. Okay, let's say if they did, which obviously they did because it's been around since the 70s. The main issue right now is the fact that Ebola, this current incident, didn't become a problem until people in the U.S. now were infected with the disease. People was it Norway and Spain were infected with the disease. So that's when it became a red flag, like, the Western world might be attacked a little bit. And like I said, I'm a Nigerian woman and I'm very proud of it. And it just hurts me because I wish that we could evolve from that, I guess, immature mentality of it's not a problem until it hits us mentality. Yeah, because if a war like the war happening or the events happening in Syria start happening in the U.S., then it'll be broadcast 10 times as much. We wouldn't go a day without seeing these issues, or a second rather without seeing these issues. And that's so upsetting because it's like, okay, we're all human beings. We're all of the same DNA essentially. So why is it that when something traumatic happens in what you consider a destitute country happens to your environment, it's now an issue? They should have responded immediately as that first person got sick, because Ebola, there's a book I'm actually reading, and Ebola, the numbers have gone down, but for some reason, as of recent, it just spiked unnecessarily. And it was like, oh, CNN's reporting on it. I'm sorry if I threw out an institution's name, but you know,
that's fine.
all
CNN,
these,
Al Jazeera, everyone, BBC,
exactly.
MSNBC.
They started to they reported on it. I won't discredit them. They did mention it, but it was like, okay, someone has it. Next story. Now, when it became something that went international and went to the Western world, you till this day you can't stop looking at the Ebola aid reliefs and the music videos and the donate now, and it just breaks my heart because I really wish the world would give Africa a chance. I don't know why it's that way. I wish that they could honestly help out with our governments. Then we'll be able to fight these battles ourselves with a good established government lacking corruption. We could help build those hospital institutions. Maybe Ebola could have been fought off if our hospitals were better. I want the world elite and the governments to think more proactively when it comes to the future of helping countries and not just the superiority of your country.
I want to come back to the point about, you want Africa, you want people to let Africa respond and do it well. But before I go on to that point, I mean, have you been following the U.S. coverage of Ebola? I'm sure you have, right? I mean, I don't know whether you know this comedian, Russell Howard. He did a little spoof about, the U.S. and the U.K. coverage of Ebola. And
he hit the nail on the head.
Do you think so? You think it's really accurate? Yeah?
Yes. I'm sorry. The U.S. is so dramatic. I'll give you guys a thumbs up. You guys are very cool, calm, and collected. And I guess they need that drama to get a point across. I don't know what it is.
Is that because of the audience? You think people in the U.S. are a bit more like,
of course.
We'll be used to it, but then it's like, it's all over the news. It was a big issue.
Okay, let's do an experiment. If I were to, be a reporter, okay, and I say 10,000 people have now died from Ebola, but they're now figuring out blah, blah, blah. That's how the UK, gets that message across. While in the U.S. is breaking news, 10,000 blah. And it's so funny because you see that difference between the two. Why they do it like that, I don't know. Even when I get my updates on my phone, I'm not going to say which news organization. It's actually two of them. When I get my updates on my phone, just reading it is less dramatic one compared to the other. Looking at the pictures, I'll say they do give that same level of efficiency when it comes to expressing the pain that the people are going through. Yeah. But the coverage, boy, oh boy, that is just sensationalized. Let's throw glitter on it and let's package it up so the people can now be consumed with the story. While the UK is very subtle. You guys give the truth, not the truth with excess information.
But I'm curious because I'm sure you watch some UK news as well, right? Then is your attention held by the UK news? Do you think so?
Yes. When Sky News reported the Ebola story, I commend them. I'll give them a nice clap. They did a great job.
Yeah.
To the point where I won't tell my means of watching the news because I am a college student
coming around,
But I had the chance to play it back, and I was just like, "This is what you do when you cover a story." Now, when I watch my fellow American coverage of the breaking Ebola case, it was just too much going on. It was the children crying. I felt too bad. Like, let me pack my stuff now and hop in a plane and go help them. While Sky News was just enough information to make me get upset and make me want to do something.
Okay.
Which was very much so relaxing, because now in conversation, if someone doesn't know about Ebola, I can give them accurate numbers without being dramatic.
Okay.
So I like
that's
that
good.
balance.
That's nice. Now, bringing back to your earlier point, So I'm not sure whether you know about Ban 830.
Yeah.
That issue of, their song. And so I was reading a piece about from Al Jazeera, and they were saying, it's been that song is a bit of an issue because it was in response to poverty and hunger in Ethiopia. But then because of how popular it got, people began to equate Ethiopia's hunger crisis with the entire continent of Africa. And that sort of stigma still it still exists today.
I will never forget when I was in 5th grade, a gentleman was taunting me, and he was like, "That's why all of your cousins are broke, skinny, and hungry." Yeah,
what?
That's just the ignorance that flows throughout our society. There's not some people that will be enlightened to the sense of knowing global enlightenment. They'll just know their local community enlightenment.
But obviously, local is good as well. But people who
don't understand.
But people even who read the news, and even on the Guardian, the Independent, BBC, I still think they still believe that Africa is full of people who are hungry, and it's.
When I tell people I'm a Nigerian American first generation, their mouth goes, "What? Like,
what?
Excuse me? Like, your parents did what? My parents are, my parents came to the U.S. and lived the American dream and are living the American dream mixed in with the Nigerian dream, which is to raise your children up to finish school and to have a nice job afterwards. It's not necessarily about money. It's about that stability that you can have and to provide for the future generations. That's an African tradition that I think everyone understands. It correlates with everybody. Now, for me to speak to someone who doesn't know that is shocking to them because they still think we're suffering. Yes, like I said, if we fix our governments, I'm not saying they're terrible, but it's just like, come on, let's budget properly so we can have better roads. Let's do this. Let's do that. Because Africa by no means is a poor country. Are the resources not being properly dispersed? Yeah. The resources are definitely not going out to everybody, and that's something that we have to fix. And I don't blame outside sources for trying to fix that. But what does hurt me is when people don't even care to listen about my culture and what it means to be an African woman. I'm not, like I said, we have to remove that superiority complex out of our head and just understand that, you're like this and I can still embrace you as a person. Like, if you were to see me tomorrow with my natural afro, you'll probably be like, what?
Well, I think it'd just be more different because normally you have quite straight hair. So I think it's more a bit, wow.
I actually got asked one time, did you not wash your hair today? And I said, no, I did exactly that. I washed my hair. And when I wash my hair, it curls up and it becomes, fluffy. That's the type of baby steps we can take, whether it's something that minute to help you understand, like, my hair reverts. You probably have never heard of that term before.
Hair reverts. I think, I don't know. I'm sure I have heard about it one time, but I see your point. No one really heard about hair reverting because where would the hair revert to? That issue. But yeah, bringing us back to Ban 830, do you think it should have been re-released and recovered?
Oh, have you read the lyrics for it?
I have seen the lyrics. I have seen the music video. But I'm just going to put it out there. It's the singers who are on the video, on the music on Ban 830 are not bad. I like a few of them, not all of them.
But I wish we had the legal rights to play the clip.
Well, we do have legal rights to play the clip, but I'm not going to play it now.
Okay.
But the issue, that's the issue. These artists, obviously, they made the decision to play it, to sing the song. But the main issue currently is with Bob Geldof deciding to produce it again and have it. And, his comments are a bit just really weird because he's like, it doesn't matter whether you hate the song, whether you love the song, or you don't believe in the message. Just buy the song and
raise money.
And I'm just like, yeah, buy the song, but you get more famous. It's like, it's sort of like self-profiting, but not in the money format, but just like, yeah, I wrote that song. It's just, I don't think it's going the right way. Why do they have to buy the song? Why can't they just donate money directly to the organizations and directly to these countries?
Because, people that have a publicist that wants to make money.
Yeah, it all comes down back to money.
It all comes down to money because if you buy the song, artists get paid, and they also raise money for a good cause, I guess. Um, it's just it's just sad. The lyrics of the words are just. I'm sorry. I said the lyrics of the words. That's redundant. But the lyrics are just terribly sad. It makes me as an like I keep going back to this. It makes me as an African feel so heartbroken. Like,
do you even know it's Christmas time? Just wonder. I'm sure they do. It's a global holiday,
and that's very offensive because not every African is Christian. Not every American is Christian. And me being a Christian woman, I'm just like, do they know it's Christmas? Of all things, one dealing with this topic at hand, which is Ebola, why would you now still have the same song? How come they couldn't use that do they know it's Christmas as a reference and then create a completely new song, new title, new lyrics, new everything?
But that's the issue now that the music industry, they can't be original anymore in the pop music industry. They've all got really redundant and really simplistic lyrics and now just really simplistic beats. I think that's just, who wants to write a new song when they can just sing it entirely again, over and over again?
Over and over and over again.
All right. We're going to cut to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about an issue of police getting powers to identify internet users in the UK. You are listening to The Fourth Estate on Radio Brunel.
Fake your way through a conversation. Tell her all the things you wish were true. Maybe you're the voice of a generation.
Good afternoon, you are listening to The Fourth Estate on Radio Brunel. I am Jim Wong, your main host of the show. And this is the show that we're talking about the main issues and news of the week. Today I am joined by just one guest. We're reducing in numbers, it seems, from Friday's 3 guests to now just 1 guest. Well, hopefully when it comes down to Friday's live show, we'll have back to our usual 4. Today I am joined by an American student who's here doing an MA in International Journalism. This is Nkechi. And today we just talked about a little bit about on Africa Responds and Band 830 as well, a little bit about Cleveland and police officers. Now we're going to come back again to police officers because Theresa May, as Home Secretary of the UK, has said that a new bill, the Anti-Terrorism and Security Bill, will oblige internet service providers, ISPs, to retain information linking IP addresses to individual users, and then police officers can be able to receive those IP addresses to help identify criminal suspects online. So it's obviously an issue. I mean, yes, it's good to be able to identify criminal activity online and see who's making these claims about criminal activity, who's going to perpetuate sort of hatred or perpetuate sort of paranoia around crime in the UK. But also the issue of, that means police individuals can get IP addresses and find out who posted up what, who did what from anyone online. I mean, an issue of privacy is obviously key to discussion.
No. Should the police have it? No. Should the sheriff have it? Maybe. Or,
Well, how do you differentiate between the police and the sheriff?
Police to me are the, 9 to 5 police officers that work at, the mall or the ones that you call in case of emergency. But But the sheriff, the person that sits behind the desk and they debrief people, those are the ones that I feel like they should have some type of right. If not, just have like the last couple of digits of their IP address posted. Because if we start to threaten people with this, maybe that level of internet hate crimes will go down. Because what I've learned since I've been in the UK is that there are a lot of trolls, quote unquote, as you guys call it, people who just go on the internet.
Everyone calls them trolls, not just us.
We've never heard that.
Oh, really?
No, because I actually mentioned it to my best friend, and she was like, "Oh, what? Like under the bridge?" So, with that being said, to eliminate that hatred, then sure, threaten them with this slap on the wrist. But to, have everyday police officers now being able to get their IP address and using that to get any type of information, let's be truthful with ourselves. There's not always going to be that good cop. There's probably more bad cops out there that exist and we don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a catch-22.
Exactly. And I mean,
if this happens,
I think it's fine if you want to give the IP, addresses to the officers. But I want to know what are the what's the background for that IP address? Why do you want it? What are you gonna do with the address?
It's just gonna say, "Hey, we found this person. They live at this resident, and this person was using this computer."
But I want to know why police officers are gonna what would cause them to suspect an individual? What are the limits of criminal activity online?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Twitter trolling is obviously not. It depends on Twitter trolling. You got the Madeleine McCann case of a Twitter troll, but I mean. Everyone's going to post, negative things online all the time, I don't do it personally, but people do. They talk about their employers negatively online.
Which is stupid to me.
Obviously, anything on internet is just, you got to be careful what you post.
Definitely.
But I mean, it's like, where do you draw the line between criminal activity and just foolish behavior? Foolish, ignorant behavior.
Criminal activity is, you notice that someone keeps posting photos of guns,
But
death,
I mean, everyone in the US likes
maybe.
guns sometimes, They like, I've gone hunting today, I've gone shooting.
To be honest, that's
my
very
collection
true.
of guns.
I follow a pastor. She's a pastor's wife who is a part of the NRA, and I think that's awesome. I won't say her name.
All right.
But yes, you are very right. How would you be able to differentiate what is serious and what is just someone being a nuisance on the internet?
Literally everyone nowadays, everyone's almost like a nuisance on the internet.
Yeah, because even I was a little Twitter troll when the Aaliyah biopic came out. I was infuriated. I've said some harsh things.
We'll come back to Aaliyah because I want to talk about it as well, a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean...
But I'd never write something like I support Syria and, Palestine needs to blah, blah, blah. To that extent,
yeah,
it should be questionable. Like, where's this person going? Let's monitor what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because look at the Boston bomber. He had a lot of things on his computer that kind of said, hey, I'm going to do this, or hey, I have this plan developing that the police could have utilized prior to the event.
It's interesting you point out the Boston bombing because issue, yes, the bomber did use tweets and social media to make his sort of intent known beforehand, but also the issue of social media helping out with the manhunt, but then finding the wrong individual. Yes, is that a crime then? I mean. It causes distress to the family of the suspect who they thought was a suspect, but turned out to be dead. A few days before. That's a huge issue because it's like, can we then hurt those individuals who make these kind of false lies, who makes everyone believe that they're facts, but they're not actual facts? I mean, is that considered a criminal activity then?
Oh, gosh. I should have gone to law school if I knew I was going to answer these questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is called the fourth estate. We're here to question everything.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a thing to ponder about because, this is a sort of, I can see where they're coming from with the bill, but I still think you just can't say
you can't really. Every case will be different.
Exactly.
Let's be honest. Every case will be different. If they have that bill, it's like a safety net bill.
Yeah.
I say it should only be cast out into social society until there's something that catches their eye of urgency. Therefore, just hold on to that net before you just assume everyone is out to cause trouble or everyone is posting a tweet that might lead to a bombing or whatever the case may be. Okay, so pass the bill, use it when it's necessary, but also use it to threaten people a little bit. Like, you know what? Let someone rethink posting images of them holding, a shotgun or AK-47 or a pistol, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that's obviously a thing as well. I mean, I like how you use the net metaphor, and I think, yeah, true. But also, I want to know, when you use the net, I want to know what it's being used for, why you use the net, you know, how are you going to use the net. I want to know everything about it. I think that should be in the public domain. I think that should be in the public interest.
But then again, that's like the First Amendment, freedom of speech.
No, but I mean the police officers using the net to capture suspects online. I want to know what makes you think that they should be, you know, sought out after. I want to know the process of the police to finding out what happens. But yes, issue of freedom of speech, you know, but we don't have the UK. Well, I say we, but I'm not really a British citizen. But we don't have a First Amendment, so that's obviously a difference in the UK and the US.
True.
Bringing it a little bit back to the Aaliyah biopic. I mean, Timbaland went a little bit furious on Aaliyah biopic.
I wish I had a small little violin to play, because it was just tragic, for lack of better words. Huh?
Did you actually watch it?
Yeah, I watched it, which was very difficult to do because, you know, you guys don't have Lifetime here. I don't think you.
I don't even know. I don't watch my TV.
Besides the point, same here. But I watched it, and I was like, "Am I watching Disney Channel?" It was so sugar coated. It was so sweet, and for us, you know, our generation, to have someone that was very inspirational, very entertaining. She did her job as an entertainer, which was to make people dream of, you know, being on stage and make people listen to her music and also be very genuine with her fans. Aaliyah did that. What that movie did was just poke fun at her life, to be quite honest. It was very melodramatic. For one, you have a young lady who married someone that was how many years older than her. It wasn't just the fact that they have an age difference, because I have an aunt that's married to a man that's 15 years older than her. It was just the timing of when they got married. And that's an issue I feel like the family kept so privately that even until the movie was exposed, that was just a rumor. Even though people were like, oh, this is the real marriage certificate and yada, yada, yada. So with that being said, Wendy Williams didn't really think that through. She didn't even, she could have went in depth as to what Aaliyah's last nights were in the Bahamas was like, just by the people that did survive or the people that left early, you know? Instead of her just riding away in a limousine. There are biopics that had a low budget, but at least they got the point across about the life and death of this individual.
I mean, yeah. So now it's made, but do you think it should have been made in the first place? Because I mean, they didn't even get the rights from the parents. They didn't get the permission.
When you don't get the rights from the family, as you know, there's been countless of Jackson movies, but the family has. Someone from the family at least agreed. If it wasn't a consensus between the whole entire family, at least they had someone to be there on set to say, this is what we'll do and this is how we can tweak the script. No one from Aaliyah's family. That's disrespectful and that's being dishonest. And I don't want to get too biased when it comes to that, but if you are someone dealing with media journalism, you know how we both know our guidelines and our morals within this industry. And I feel like Wendy Williams, of everyone starting off with the radio, getting her own talk show, knows about the respect first. You respect your guests, you offer them into your environment, and then you work with them. She didn't do that. It was almost like she went around the bush, and I don't condone harassment. Some people did say Timberland harassed her, but I say he defended his friend.
Yeah, and they were close, I don't even know how close Aaliyah and Wendy Williams were together.
They weren't at all.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I agree as well.
If Timberland were to say, "Hey, I'm raising money to make an accurate Aaliyah film," and her family has, consent, they okay the film, I'll donate 50 cents or two or however much I can, provide at the time, because she was the catalyst for the Rihanna's, Beyonce, and everyone else. She opened that door, let alone she sent in the floodgate for all these girl entertainers. if it wasn't for Selena, there would have been no Aaliyah, and so on and so forth. So to see that movie hurt me. Even from the beginning, I was like, oh gosh, like where is this gonna go? And I tried not to watch the critiques, but it was just sheer pandemonium on Twitter, to the point where I had to get off Twitter because I wanted to really watch the film. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to cut to a quick break as well. You're listening to Nkechi and me, Jim Wong, on the Hofer State on Radio Brunel, and we'll be back in a few minutes shortly.
No, if you're never gonna move, well, my love, you'll make me come to you. But I'm still dancing on my own, still dancing on my own. Although I'm coming to you, well, my love, I'll keep the dance warm. But I'm still dancing on my own.
Welcome back to the Hofer State on Radio Brunel, Brunel University student-run station, and you're listening to the news show that's talking about the top issues and news of the week that we found interesting over the weekend. Today you were joined by me, Jim Wong, and Nkechi, and today we talked about a bit about Aaliyah Biopic, a bit about internet service providers giving IP addresses to the police officers, and now we're going to be moving on to, I don't know, any news that you found that could caught your eye today, Nkechi?
Have caught my eye. As you know, Obama's speech regarding...
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting speech about, he was saying, you may disagree with me, but what you should do is just sort of pass a bill. I mean, what was the exact quote, do you know?
I can't remember the exact quote. Forgive me as a journalist for not knowing it.
I might just be able to find it, actually. But yeah, he said... there are members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better. Well, I have one answer for that. Pass a bill. That's a bit of a sass from Mr. Obama, don't you think? A bit of a sort of
He's the head honcho.
Claws out,
He's the head honcho, so I guess they just have to understand where he's coming from.
And yeah, I mean, now with the whole, I think that the elections of, the Republicans taking power, I think, over the Senate.
You know what was good that had me laughing hysterically? Not Jon Stewart.
John Oliver?
The other one, the other guy.
Not Larry King, Jon Stewart, John Oliver.
I can't remember his name, but he's also a mock reporter.
Okay.
He basically compared the years before Obama's presidency, how the Democrats were saying if casting out different forecasts of what will happen in the future. And, the Democrats just in 2007 were saying, if Obama's not elected or if Senate isn't in the position of having more Democrats, then this is what's going to happen. And what did the Republicans do? They went and used the same strategy. Do you understand? Yeah. And got more votes. So it just makes me laugh because there's so many things in Senate that need to be fixed. I can't really touch on them as of right now. But when it comes to immigration, how dare American citizens have the audacity to say, these people can't come in to get any type of work or relief. Even if they don't want to stay, you guys are causing an uproar, but you will have them working in your house. It's almost like people forget that we're all human beings, forget about race or creed. But I did like one article I read. It was by a freelance writer. Basically, it was like a poem, basically saying that for people to come in and invade a country or invade land where the citizens were of Mesoamerican, Aztec, Native American descent, to now be forcing these people to, uncharted territories where they had to establish themselves and they want to come back is just a bit absurd. And I hate to to look at it at such a surface level of racial intolerance, but it can stem that way. One thing I do say is it'll be difficult for these immigrants to come in and seek for jobs when the job market is very scarce right now in the U.S., let alone the world. So it's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, and just a little bit on the economy as well. I mean, now we've David Cameron saying that, you know, red lights are flashing for a second or third world recession. That's a bit of an issue as well. But yeah, bring a little bit of an interesting take on this. Do you know the three-finger salute from Hunger Games?
Mm-hmm.
That three fingers in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So people have been using it in Thailand. So that salute with three fingers in the air has been sort of, it was used by rebels fighting against a dictatorial regime, and they've been used in Thailand against the army's coup back in May. And now the Prime Minister of Thailand, Prayut Chan-o-cha, he said that he doesn't know whether it's illegal or not, but it could jeopardize their future for people to use that salute. It's a bit of like a thinly concealed threat to the people.
That's an extreme threat. Do you understand?
Yeah. So his comments came a day after a female university student was detained by plainclothes police officers outside a shopping mall in Bangkok for flashing the salute in front of a large publicity poster for the film. And I don't know. It's
the safest way of getting attention without causing an uproar, which is very smart of them to do so. And it's almost like, who is he to, threaten? Well, of course, we know who he is, but these people are crying out for help. They just want to live a life of normalcy, if you will say. Mm-hmm. And the only way they can do that is to come up with these clever ideas of, you know what, in this film, let's reference this film rather and hold up the three-finger salute. I feel like a lot of campaigns can start up some type of association to help these Chinese students, let alone Chinese civilians.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, people have been saying on Twitter, like, when people have to target winks and gestures and thought crimes, they have lost control of their discourse. And I think that actually captures the entire, theme of this entire story. That when you have to arrest people based on just their hand movements and the symbols they make in their hand, whatever the movement, the body expression, the body posture,
you're making people live in fear, so you can have the interest at hand. And the worst thing about it is nobody wins.
Yep.
Nobody wins when you live or when you have a country that's being ran by quote unquote a dictatorship. Nobody wins whatsoever. And let's say, for example, 10 people finally get arrested from holding up three fingers or doing another gesture that the police haven't tapped into or figured out. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? It's just more and more power that the people are losing. At that point, they might as well consider sneezing a threat. Just anything could be a threat, which is just so annoying, especially coming from a little bit more relaxed society as we come from. Okay. But I think that's a topic that can go more in depth. We have a high population of Asian citizens that attend Brunel University, and I feel like their voice needs to be heard. When the young ladies in my class speak about China and just how hard it is to travel to see a family member, it kind of puts me in the mindset of the Berlin Wall, in a sense. Like, there's so many rules and regulations that you have to overcome just to live, like I said, a life of normalcy. And when I hear them speak, they felt like it was the utmost honor to come to university and to flee from that place, which is unfair, because China can and still will be one of the world's most frontier countries.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just they need to do better with their laws and
But interestingly about China, I mean, I was reading it a few months back. They're doing a lot on energy and climate change. They've promised to reduce, gas emissions in major cities in China. They promised to, think of cars making more energy efficient, and I feel like it's sort of like a step in the right direction. Obviously, they need to do more.
I like how you say promise. I don't call it a promise or a promise fulfilled until it actually happens and it's complete.
Right,
so
true.
They can throw out any statements and sign, seal, deliver. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But until it actually happens, it's just word of mouth for right now. So let's see if they can actually, pull through with this.
Okay. One last topic, just until we go to a break, is this NPR did like a little piece on I'm not sure that you're familiar with the term CPT, Colored People Time, and so the thing is that it means
I love NPR, by the way.
I love NPR as well. They said that it comes from the idea that for brown people, for colored individuals, late is a synonym for on time. Now the issue they've been reporting is that it's now being used for other groups like Indian Standard Time, and what apparently the opposite of this is white people time who actually appear on time for events. That's white people time. I mean, instead of an issue, what do you think about this? Do you think this sort of term should exist? Do you think it should be CPT, or do you think there should just be a term that just encapsulates all races and all groups and all nationalities?
There wouldn't be ignorance if there wasn't separation.
What do you mean by that?
Without ignorance and lack of understanding, people wouldn't have to now create these acronyms for things that are just absurd. Do you understand? I actually read a book about this, and you can go on YouTube, just Google, radio discussions about CP time. There's an African professor, or he's a professor in African history. I wish his name could come to mind, but basically he justified, people of African descent or of brown descent being late for occasions because our ancestors never relied on a man-made clock. It was very interesting where he was going with it, but like I said, it doesn't really justify having an acronym, because that's just rude, to say, oh, all white people show up on time. Have you sat down and logged the arrival of every Caucasian person? I don't even like calling people white or black or whatever. That's just impossible. But society likes to add humor to things, so I'll see it as a humorous attempt. I was actually watching the Mindy Project, and they have an episode called,
that's where it came from.
They have an episode called CP time, Caramel Princess time.
Yeah, that's what NPR saw it from. I think they were saying that Mindy was talking about how it's a bit of a weird phrase that Mindy Kaling says on the show. She goes, no, I meant CPT, Caramel Princess time. When you're as cute as we are, people wait for you. I'm just like, wait, what? I just don't understand this, seriously.
But you know what? It was funny because I actually read it as what I like about her show is that she makes Indian people kind of realize that you're closer to being African than you are Caucasian. And I've actually said that before to an Indian friend of mine. I told her, because she was getting frustrated just going to a school that was predominantly white. And I had to tell her, culturally speaking, from what we eat, how we dress is a bit more similar. So never look down on, someone that comes from Africa. And I tell people that are African, never look down on Middle Easterns, because we kind of understand each other a bit more. Even with Asians, there's so many, like that relationship. I don't understand why we have that relationship, but I think Mindy Callahan, is that how you say?
Mindy Kaling, I think.
Yeah, Kaling. She touches on that a lot within her show, even with her with the other female actress that's African American. I like how she doesn't, separate that humor and it's almost like a sisterhood in a way. I do like that, but people reading too much about certain things like that, I think it's just all for humor. It shouldn't be taken so seriously when we do have major issues going on, like I'm sorry, children dying, wars going on. So if you feel offended by someone saying CP time, show up 30 minutes early.
Always be early. That's the issue, especially when you're trying to find a job nowadays. Interesting you bring about, children dying, more important issues. The Washington Post put up a blog post saying that if you want to understand why it's not urgent American public about climate change, it's because it isn't a priority. People don't find climate change a priority. So a survey from the Public Religion Research Institute asked people about the severity of recent natural disasters. About 6 in 10 said climate change is at least partly to blame. About half, 49%, cited the biblical end times, as in the apocalypse, for the recent natural disasters. And that number is up 5 points from 2011. I'm sorry. What is this? Like, the apocalypse is to blame for natural disasters? I don't think there is no scientific proof for that, okay?
Well, if that's the case, I pray I get a great job, get married, and have children before that time. But with that being...
But when is the apocalypse, when is it?
As in the Bible says, no man will know the hour when our Lord Jesus Christ returns.
Well, yeah, but the Mayan got it wrong in 2012, and who's
to say they got it wrong? What if we went through all that conspiracy stuff just humors me. I grew up in the South. The South is the Bible Belt. Everybody totes a gun and a Bible in the South, so therefore I want to know where this study came from. Were they Christians that were, or people of the Christian belief that were surveyed in the southern hemisphere of the United States?
So it was done by the Public Religion Research Institute and the American Academy of Religion, and they just they interviewed people from Hispanic Catholics, Black Protestant, non-Christian religions, Jewish, white, mainline Protestant, and white Evangelical Protestant, and white Catholic. And I think it's just done all over the American. But just what is white mainline Protestant? Like, what is that?
To be honest, I don't want to guess wrongly.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not a non-denominational Protestant church where the ethnic group is predominantly Caucasian or European descent.
Yeah.
But in regards to climate change, in the end times, I'm almost laughing because, like I said, people get so distracted in the wrong things. What if these natural disasters are caused by us? From me being an avid Bible or biblical reader, it's almost like my interpretation of it is, yes, God is all-knowing, but he also knows the outcome of if we do something good or if we do something bad. With that being said, what if as society we now take better care of this home, this vast universe that he gave us, and we start considering others, we start taking care of it? What if that apocalypse gets prolonged? But then again, people will say, well, everything is supposed to come to an end. But what if, okay, in the meantime, we take care of this world we live in for future generations, and that might be the battle they have to fight, the actual apocalypse. But for some people to just sit there and cross their arms and say, no, that's definitely Jesus coming back. That's why there was a tsunami in, the Pacific Islands, or, that's to me a little bit lackluster as your reasoning for why these things are happening. And that doesn't make me less of a Christian. If anything, that makes me more more acceptance to a higher being that gives us options in life.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I'm just curious, why do they always picture God to be so negative sometimes? That, he's going to throw some disaster on you. Why can't you picture him giving you miracles and giving you some, a rainbow of unicorns? What's wrong with that,
You see, look, what I've noticed, people only equate God to being good or bad. You have a God that will strike your enemies. If that person did something wrong to you, then Lord, strike them dead. But then you can turn around and say, Lord, please bless me with a new car, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're supposed to interpret who God is. I think it's definitely how the Bible says to have a personal relationship with God. And that's what society doesn't do, because there's just this blurred image of who God is and what a higher being is.
Mm-hmm.
So we lose our connection with nature. I feel like if God is all knowing and omnipresent, that means he's in everything, especially nature. Because nobody takes the time to go outside at night and tell a plant to photosynthesize. No one, sits in their bed while they're about to sleep and say, you know what, brain, heart, mind, everything, keep working, although consciously I'm not aware. Do you understand?
Exactly.
So I do, like I say, we have to definitely stop accusing God for the negative things that happen and take a little bit more responsibility, especially in the sense of our environment. Because everything I do in life now is for my children and my children's children's children. That's why I preach about recycling. That's why I preach about, treating your environment properly and not just overutilizing your resources. Make it to where you can stretch it out instead of just consuming all at once.
All right, great point so far, Nkachi. Okay, we're going to play you a last couple of songs before finishing off our show with one more headline story, as well as a story that Nkachi found interesting over the weekend. This is The Horror State on Radio Brunel. Good afternoon, you are listening to The Horror State on Radio Brunel, the news show that talks about the top issues and news of the week. Today we've talked about a variety of issues, a bit of all over the place. Talked about Thailand and Hunger Games, we talked about climate change, people believing that it's due to the biblical apocalypse. Then we're closing off the show with just two more stories. And so I want to talk a little bit about Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. People have been saying, he's a rapist. He's sexually assaulted women, people, and it's a huge sort of downfall of one of the greatest Americans before, and now it's just sort of like reducing him. I don't know whether they're true or not, but there are a lot of accounts now coming up, resurfacing now, and I just don't know what to make of this sort of issue, this sort of PR disaster. I'm guessing.
Machiavelli once said, "Be a wolf in sheep's clothing."
Yeah, exactly.
So, Bill Cosby grew up in everybody's household, or everyone grew up with Bill Cosby in their household, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
To hear this, people are now on the fence, like, well, that was in the past, but do you forgive someone that has, abused the rights of someone else's sexuality?
Yeah.
Just because he was a great actor, and probably for years he acted this persona of being a family man? Or you had the other people saying, this is not Bill, and these stories are all absurd to distract us from such and such and whatever. To be honest, until there's more evidence, it's hard for us as a society just to execute this man for no reason.
Yeah, and so he's been accused of drugging them and raping them years ago. I understand, I do sympathize with these victims who might be victims. That it takes a while to rehabilitate, to get put yourself together.
Hmm.
But also,
But
why now? I'm just curious. At
do
this
you see,
time.
that's the question. And what I like is that a lot of articles that have surfaced, they've actually have gone to rape therapists, and they've gone to forensic officials to ask them, why would these women wait now? Some have given the reasoning of, because he's such a man with prestige, power, and he's a community figure, they felt like they will be threatened and they might be killed. That's a nice way to look at it, or that's an interesting way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if you are a woman who has been raped, knowing that technology in the country that you live in can, definitely classify the specimen that was in you, that raped you, etc., then why not go to court immediately? Why not sue him immediately? What bothers me with some women is that they like to say, I was raped, I was molested, I was this or that, when in actuality they just want to play the victim. But for those that it has happened to, I sympathize for them, because so many women have cried wolf before. So I want to make sure, or I can't really make sure, but I would like to know that, like, these women, this event legitimately happened to them. And I don't want to sound heartless or cold, but this is someone's life that you're putting them through this nightmare. So let it be true. If you're really going to accuse somebody, let your word be true. Let your I be I and your nay be nay.
You should be like just a woman of middle, just quotes. I think you give such good quotes and stuff. You're very meme-tastic. I think the things you say will be on memes. So yes, our last piece of story. So in Ketchi, what caught your eye this weekend?
Oh, what caught my eye was the Iranian woman that was placed in jail.
Mm-hmm.
For her and her friend were placed in jail for attending a males volleyball game over the weekend. It was Iran versus Italy.
Okay.
Which concerns me because, the Middle East has this vast culture that's intertwined with religion and just, everyday lifestyle. And a part of their religion is for the women to be separate from men. And it bothers me just a tad, because with anything you do in life, you want to progress. Yes, you want to hold on to your culture, but even those things that you're holding on to wasn't the original blueprint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So you mean to tell me in 2014, where there are women in other countries that are becoming presidents, we have young ladies that are being beaten and thrown into jail because they wanted to go to something that's the source of entertainment?
Yeah.
To me, that's just wrong. That is completely wrong. And it's hurtful, because in these areas, women, they are forced into prostitution. Their young daughters are being sold to men that are 50 years older than them just to produce children. It's like, how's that happening under our nose and no one is speaking on it until they come to to other countries, or until someone from a different country now decides to write an article about it. So I thought that story was rather, eye-catching. Gratefully, the young lady was released.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, what will be the next thing
next
to happen? Yes, the next headline. Will a woman now be beheaded because she attended an all-men's whatever?
Yeah, and which I really agree with, but I think as well, these now in society, there's so many questions. There's the issue of male and female. It's also old culture and new cultural, technology and traditional. It's all that debate, and I think it's time people kind of sit down and think about this kind of issues, because I see your point. You want to hold on to your culture, which is what you said,
Mm-hmm.
but don't let it hinder your progress. I think let your culture adapt to the new society.
Because if they could do this to this young lady,
What could they do next?
yes, and it'll be shameful
Yeah.
or ironic if that happened to one of the men that assaulted her. Rather, if it happened to his wife or his daughter, then he'll probably come out and be furious. But you laid your hand on a complete stranger because she decided to sit in a volleyball match. That's just ridiculous.
That is true. And just as a note to lead to all you future parents and future citizens of the world, don't do anything you wouldn't want to happen to your own child or to your own animal or just to yourself. Seriously.
Exactly. The world could be so much simple if everyone was not as sensitive, if everyone wasn't just so self-centered.
Yes.
That's the problem. We live in a selfish world. People put themselves first and not the humanity as a whole.
Oh yeah. It's not about you anymore. It's about the entire world.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you're only here for about 80 years of your life.
I know. I pray to
but
God.
the world will be here for a very long time.
Exactly.
And so will your future citizens and everything. So that's it for today's show of the Fourth Estate. It's been great having Nkechi on the show. Hopefully
has
we'll
been
see
an
her
honor.
again.
I definitely enjoyed myself. You made me want to go back in my dorm and just read other topics we can discuss later on.
And hopefully we'll have more and
wonderful.
more shows. Until then, our next show is on Friday at 4 p.m. and we'll see who's on that show on that day. Until then, it's Nkechi and Jim. Nkechi, say goodbye.
Adios,
And
fellow radio goers.
Exactly. I was going to say adios amigos, but that is. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, goodbye.
You could be happy, and I won't know. But you weren't happy the day I watched you go. And all the things that I wish I had not said.